so much. My name is Omar Hujran. I'm Associate Professor at United Arab Emirates University. Today I will present our work in progress, which is related to cultural significance of e-commerce through semiotic analysis. So this conference paper is only a literature review. We use this literature review to develop our journal paper, which will be submitted soon to one of the top journals. So that's the idea of this paper. And my agenda for this presentation: first, I will provide some background information. Then, the objective of this study. Then I will discuss the literature review. Then I will end up with the conclusion of this paper. So basically, you notice that during COVID-19, e-business was, and still now, one of the effective platforms for businesses to sell their products as well as to communicate with their customers. And we have noticed a great growth of e-business and e-commerce. Maybe because I noticed that most of the papers are from artificial intelligence, machine learning, so this topic might be different. So here we conducted in our journal paper a semiotic analysis. What do you mean by a semiotic analysis? Semiotic analysis is a way in which we analyze the design of the website. We analyze the pictures, we analyze the symbols, the signs, and each sign or each design might communicate differently in different contexts or in different cultures. That's why it's important to understand the culture before designing the website. So, for example, in our countries, Arab countries, we have a different culture than Australia or Western countries or even China or Japan or whatever. So that's why a single website doesn't fit all cultures. That's based on different research or different studies that have been conducted according to our literature review. So that's why cultural differences, or to understand, investigate and understand cultural differences, is very important for e-commerce websites to be successful across different cultures. So studies based on this paper, we have conducted a comprehensive literature review or systematic literature review. And we found empirical evidences that design features of layout, color, language is very important and significant for the user's acceptance of e-commerce websites or e-business websites. That's why it's important to understand these cultural differences. And the opposite, which means that if you don't understand the culture, this means that you will find some resistance to use your e-commerce website. For example, in our Muslim culture, we don't eat pork, for example. Our clothes are traditional and different than Western countries. So if you show these images in your website, most likely your e-commerce will not be used in a Muslim culture or Arab culture. That's why you need to be very careful when you use images or when you provide or offer products in our culture. So for you to success, you need to understand these issues before you move on. So culture, what do you mean by a culture? Culture is beliefs, norms, values, actions in a single context. So in China, they have their norms, beliefs, and values. In Australia, they have a different values, beliefs, and norms. In Arab culture, we have also a different culture. That's why it's important to understand these issues before designing your interface in general, or e-commerce interface in particular. Sorry for that, just to summarize about the background information. The idea is cultural differences are very important to be understood before designing user interface in general, and e-commerce and e-business interfaces in particular. Semiotic analysis is a field in which researchers study the meaning of the messages conveyed by an image, or a design layout, or a language, or a color. So that's the main idea of this slide. And what we found based on this literature review that we have conducted, that cross-cultural studies when it's come to e-commerce and semiotic analysis are very rare. We couldn't find many studies related to conducting a semiotic analysis of e-commerce websites in a cross-cultural setting. So we found some studies in a single context, but studies that tackle this issue from a cross-cultural perspective are lacking. So that's why we started to tackle this issue by conducting a literature review, and this paper basically is just to show the importance of the topic, show the gaps in the literature, and we already developed a framework that we have used for our journal paper to analyze differences between Australia and UAE. So we use this framework to analyze the cultural differences when it's come to semiotic analysis in two different cultures, Australia and UAE. And still we are working in this paper, and we hope to finish it very soon and publish it in one of the top journals. So based on our literature review, we found a lack of even conceptualization or operationalization of culture. And we, based on the previous literature, we found that the concept of culture is a complex, multidimensional construct. And we found Hofstede theory as one of the most widely used theory when it's come to cultural dimensions. Based on Hofstede framework, we have 5 dimensions for the culture. Those are power distance, uncertainty, avoidance, individualism, collectivism, masculinity, femininity, long-term and short-term orientation. For example, Arab culture are collective culture, while Western countries such as Australia and USA are individual or individualism culture. So based on Hofstede framework, we can differentiate between countries based on these 5 cultural dimensions. And actually, this scholar have give a rank for each dimension for each country. So you can compare based on the ranking of these dimensions And you can find that easily if you conduct a research or a search about hosted cultural dimensions. This theory could be used to understand the cultural differences between countries, and could be used when you develop your website or when you develop any e-business or e-commerce website. So you can understand cultural differences, and based on this, you can design your website accordingly. For example, regarding the power distance, if we have a high power distance according to hosted framework, then when you design your website, you need to share information related to your organization hierarchy, or how the decision making can be done. When we tackling collective culture such as Arab countries' culture, then localization of content is very important. So you need to use their language. You need to put some of the social networking features, because collective cultures, they share informations among the society, and they and the opinion of others count. So that's very important to to link people in this context with each other, and you can rely on word of mouth for marketing. So that just to give you an example how previous studies used hosted framework to differentiate between two cultures or different cultures, and how to use these dimensions, how your understanding of these dimensions would enhance the development or the design of your e-commerce website. Sorry, what's this? Okay. Uncertainty avoidance, which is one of hosted dimensions. Western countries, they have low level of uncertainty avoidance, which means that they try new things. So people with high, or countries with high uncertainty avoidance, they don't care about uncertainty, so they try, or they like to try new things. That's why, for example, in Western countries, you can start selling your innovative or design your innovative e-commerce, or selling innovative new products in these contexts easier than selling these products in cultures with low uncertainty avoidance, which means that they like others to try the product or the website or the platform before they start using it. So according to Hofstede, we found that Arab culture is and values the value, it's a collectivism culture, masculinity culture, with high power distance culture, and low level of uncertainty avoidance. So that's why designers of websites could employ semiotic analysis to enhance the communication of the images or the layout of their websites to convey messages to a different context differently. For example, just one study, if you read my paper, you will find many studies related to semiotic analysis, but most of these studies are conducted in a single context, meaning that in a single culture. So we couldn't find many studies that tackle the issue from a different cultural or cross-cultural context. So these guys, Al Isawi, developed a mobile application for adults or older adults, and they found the design, will screen, will language, will colors impact the user experience or user satisfaction. They also found the intention to use a mobile application that suits Arab culture will be higher than a design that doesn't suit Arab culture. So in conclusion, we have found that many researchers understand or demonstrated that cross-cultural factors, cross-cultural issues must be considered before designing a website or a system in general. And this would impact the user experience, the user satisfaction, and the user intention to use or reuse the website. So you need, or the current existing e-commerce or e-business platforms. For example, Amazon, we have Amazon.ae, which means that this Amazon is specifically for UAE or for Arab context. So they adapted the websites according to our culture. So awareness about the culture is very important for adoption of technology in general, and e-commerce, e-business in specific. Unfortunately, we couldn't find many studies that use semiotic analysis in a cross-cultural context, which means that this is a gap in the literature, and this create motivation for us and for other researchers to conduct such studies, which will help to boost e-commerce transactions, which will help to increase the adoption rate of e-commerce websites across cultures, and also it will help marketing people as well, how to use which language, which images, which design, which layout would help to communicate the messages or the marketing messages in different cultures. So that's all. That's the idea of the paper. It's just a work in progress. We reported only a gap in the literature that we found. If you read the full paper, you will find many studies highlighted these gaps in the literature. And we are currently, as I mentioned, in the analysis phase of applying a semiotic framework to understand the cultural differences. Basically, we selected 20 e-commerce or e-business websites from Australia and 20 from UAE, and we are applying now this framework to understand how designers in Australia are different than web designers in UAE or Arab culture. So Australia is representing Western culture, UAE is representing Arab culture. So we are now at the analysis phase. We identified some unique differences, such as layout, the design, from left to right. This is a common sense, but we identified many other design issues that are different between Australia and UAE. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please, I'm happy to hear.